Hello, hello. We are live. We are back. Real Science episode 44. We have Thomas, Paranoid American. We have Thomas or Nate. Thomas's good friend. We have Jeremy Reese, alien scientist, front and center, and Mike Faraday below. Research on the bottom left. How's everyone doing today?
Awesome.
Good. How's it going, Mike?
Good. How are you guys?
Hey, happy Friday, guys.
Yeah,
happy Friday. We made it through another one.
Happy weekend. We survived another week, right? Canada, last week, everything was on fire. Half my friends and family lost homes in Kelowna. But
World War III starting in Russia and the Ukraine, and it's just the apocalypse podcast.
Right? It's getting that way. It really is. It's kind of scary. But is it because the breakthrough technology is coming through, the occult, the esoteric knowledge is becoming mainstream, and they want to keep control, get us to keep killing ourselves? I don't know. What you guys' thoughts? How do we keep alive?
Watch the world burn.
Well, I want to know who they is first. That's always my first go-to. Like, who is they?
We know who they is, Tom.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think they're ramping up some of the disclosure stuff just because it's a nice shiny new toy. I mean, that's kind of my personal opinion on it.
Well, it could be, right? They're shiny new toys in the sky, but is it toys for them and not for us? And have they been here the whole time?
A little bit of both. I think that they get to play with the toys, and then we get to be fascinated by like them shining. So everyone gets a little bit of something out of the exchange.
Yeah, right. We're just destined to be stuck as their homunculus, and
it's like if you jangle your Porsche keys in front of a baby, right? Like the baby's amused, but the baby's got no idea that those are also Porsche keys, right? The baby's just happy to get attention, and that's us. We're the baby.
That's a very good analogy, actually. Very good. So, Nate, Czar's podcast, and Thomas, you guys delve into the occult sciences a lot. And then we have Jeremy and Mike with us on the physical end of the spectrum and the material sciences of it all. And today's goal a bit is to introduce the communities of this art generation, the AI applications that you're doing, and bringing forth disclosure in Jeremy has written pretty epic words so far. Are you up for doing a demo today, Jeremy, or not?
Oh, no, I can't do that, man. It's gotta have full force debut when it comes out, man.
Well, frick. There's only 20 people watching right now. We're fine. You're fine.
No, this is not. You gotta understand.
I'll do a demo a little later if you want. I'm working on basically the Newman theory on how his motor works. So I'm implementing some of the stuff he's been doing. So later on, I can show you guys a little demo.
Absolutely, Mike. That would be appreciated. And
because you guys caught me at an early time. It's like not my bedtime yet, so I'm going to stay up a little later.
Right, I managed to start at not 3 a.m. Eastern.
Well, it's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock Eastern right now in Toronto. It's 10 o'clock, so I'm okay.
Right. I'm wondering if Tim will make it tonight because he's used to me starting like at midnight on the West Coast, which is usually perfect for him. He probably has a real life going on right now, recording several other interviews. And Thomas, Nate, you guys are doing another one tonight that you're gonna have to hop off in a bit, or you just
we might have to do an Irish goodbye at some point, but it's not because we don't love you guys.
That'll happen. Well, while we have you, why don't do you want to pull up a little AI generation and see if we can make a little short clip of? I know Jeremy's always wanted some artwork of Boston being destroyed by UFOs shooting some lasers.
Yeah, dude.
And stuff that.
Yeah, I got something that I
generate a little alien invasion while we're live.
here we go.
My buddy has that tattoo of the Boston skyline.
So this is a news site that everybody can use. I haven't done a tutorial on it yet. I'm going to soon, but it's rundiffusion.com, and this will let you do exactly what I've been showing you guys on your own, and through a browser. You don't have to have any hardware or anything. And I think that I got an affiliate link set up to get people a discount on this. So if you just put Paranoid in when you sign up somewhere, I'll figure all that stuff out later. But anyways, so if I just hit my run diffusion and I'm going to run it on this little small guy, and I'm probably going to run it for like an hour while we're doing this. So if I just hit launch, it's going to set the whole thing up that normally I'm pulling up here, and I'll be able to type anything we want in here. And the coolest thing about this is that instead of going to Midjourney, because if I guarantee you, I'm not going to try it because I don't want to get flagged. But if I go in Midjourney and I type in, UFOs destroying Boston Marathon, bombing, fire, or something, it'll flag you. It'll be like, you're trying to generate images on like a sensitive topic. So they kind of prevent you from doing that. So this is really the only way to make anything that you really want without any restrictions, right? This takes the bumpers out.
Yeah, I've been I've been putting my stuff on other platforms now. So I'm on OdySee, and I'm on Rumble, and I got some stuff on Instagram. So I'm trying to spread myself out because the stuff I'm working on, who knows, they could flag me too, right, at any time. So
exactly, and like the AI is supposed to be open. It's supposed to be open source and free. And as Paranoid Americans stating here, there's several that they'll try to limit you, restrict you, censor you, claiming you're doing hate speech and all these stupid things.
Well, dude, ChatGPT, even like almost anyone that's been using it for more than a month or so, you can see this steady change of like, no, I'm not allowed to talk about that. I'm not allowed to give you this information anymore. And it's not really to help anyone. It's just because they're trying to check boxes.
Yep.
It's like they're programming a narrative into the system. You're confined to this little space, and if you go outside those barriers, it starts saying, they'll start beating around the bush and not give you results that you want.
And I think they're also going to start training people to expect a little bit less out of AI, at least from like a commercial, people that click on do this now an AI link on Facebook or Instagram, and that's their extent of it. They're going to dumb it down a little bit just so that people don't really understand how complex it can be, but also how easy it can be to use when it's kind of like unrestricted once you take all the chains off.
Oh, right. And also that they're trying to restrict the data that's being entered into AI as well, as they don't want AI necessarily to be so aware of certain topics, information, and the alternate reality, not just the official narrative, right?
Well, and it's not like I don't know how many people here were around when you used to be able to get black boxes, or when you could like pay the cable guy to like give you all the pay channels, through an extra like $20 or $40. But the way that right, yeah, dude. Well, the way that it used to work though is like back when it was mostly analog, is that you got all the channels all the time, always. And what they would do is they would install a little filter that would make sure that it filtered out HBO and filtered out Cinemax. And that's kind of the same analogy that I would run for AI, is that like AI can do everything always all the time, but they put all these filters on it. That's like, you're not allowed to say that, or you're not allowed to do this. But like if they just took all of those, filters off, then it can do almost anything that you want. So this right here is Run Diffusion. And yeah, I mean, this is exactly how it's normally set up, except you can see it's got all of these different models that are preloaded, way more than I've got ready to go usually. And this also includes the new Stable Diffusion XL. So if anyone's not familiar with that, this is a brand new version that came out. They can do twice the resolution, and it's got way more detail. So yeah, so lay it on me. What are we doing for some prompts?
What I think, my personal opinion, what's even more scary is the fact that AI is attached to all these CCTV cameras. And I noticed in the Toronto and Ontario especially, these cameras are popping up everywhere. They're popping up on lampposts in like the middle of nowhere. And it's like, why do they have these cameras here? Like, what is their purpose? You know, it'd be like not even like at a stoplight, you'll have like cameras to detect for the signals to change. But I'm seeing in certain areas where they got these cameras up and it's in the middle of nowhere, and you can't even think of a purpose of why this camera is here, right? So if you got AI attached to that, you know what I mean? So what is it tracking? Who are you watching? You know?
Well, I think we're gonna have to start getting used to that, but it's also like there might not be a human answer to that question. Like AI might just be like, because you know these 4.3 billion parameters
everything
decided that a camera needed to be there, and that's the answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like really kind of freaking me out now because I'm starting to notice it, especially in Ontario, Canada, a lot more. It's like turning into a freaking police state. Like there's cameras everywhere.
It is.
And I don't like it.
It's
Rhode
creepy.
Island has cameras all over. Providence and Pawtucket have cameras everywhere now. They started a couple of years ago, and they made so much money with these stupid tickets that everyone hates. That like they put in more cameras and more cameras all at every intersection. It used to be just in front of the school zones, and they argued it was like, oh, we just want to keep the schools safe, and then now they're just everywhere.
Yeah, like you know, if you're using the cameras, say for like excessive speeding, like I know in Ontario, it's like a real problem. Like we're not talking like 10 over or 20 over. We're talking like 50 and 60 over the limit. Okay, I'm for that, you know, because that's public safety. But you know, is it being used for specifically for that purpose, or is there an ulterior?
I got an $80 ticket for a red light I didn't run. I got a $40 ticket for 4 miles over the limit. Yeah, it's retarded.
They cause more accidents than they prevent at red lights because everybody's like, slamming on their brakes doesn't want a $500 fine. It's absolutely.
But you know, I think it boils down to the point that where do you draw the line? Where we're going too far. You know what I mean?
I draw the line when they start making fake trees to hide the antennas. Like, what the W is that?
Yeah, I'm sure.
So for some ideas to enter in, maybe. Oh, see, you're on it. That's looking good. So is that Boston skyline, just a skyline?
I mean, it's never really going to be like Boston. It's going to be as close as the AI determined it's going to be.
A futuristic we can add in too, right?
Like can I add something here? Last weekend I was up at a friend's place up in about 3 hours north of where I live, up near Wyerton, Ontario. So anyways, he's got a nice property up there, and he's in basically the middle of nowhere, and the stars at nighttime about 50 times more visible than the city. Like in the city, you can hardly see any stars at all because there's so much ambient light
pollution.
Like holy mackerel.
You can actually see the Milky Way. People are like, oh, is that a cloud? It's like, is that a glowing cloud? Yeah, it's like that's the glowing cloud of the galaxy arm of the Milky Way that we exist in. Yes, it's not
like it blew me away. It really blew me away how many stars there were. It was like a picture painted in the sky, and there were so many of them. It just I just sat out there for hours and just looking up. Couldn't get over it.
I'm just grabbing some comments here. There was one that said futuristic tectonic plates and quantum computing. So I'm just posting some of those in here to see what happens. That one's actually pretty cool.
What's everybody's take on this LK99 superconductor? Think it's real, or do you guys think it's kind of far-fetched? Or
it's too early to tell just yet. We're trying to make it. We made a couple samples, and it looks like a highly diamagnetic and paramagnetic material, but like no evidence of superconductivity yet. And this hasn't been a effort on behalf of the team that originally produced it to really show how to make it and also test it and show with the 4-point probe that it's got superconductivity. And yeah, I think it was overhyped, and it was possibly a hoax, but it's also comes from some stuff from 1999. That's the LK99. It's like a 20-year-old recipe and some things that was studied a while back.
Really? I did not know that aspect of it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, because I thought I had heard different origin stories for this, man, going around for like the first week. There was just like all kinds of crazy. I heard that it's these South Korean researchers programmed the AI with material science to think up this material, and it wasn't true. And then I heard that it came from like 1999. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of like YouTube channels that really put their foot in their mouth on that LK99 stuff.
I think it's like a smear campaign. They want to say, "Oh, it's not possible," and they'll just fully smear it, right?
It's kind of weird, man. It's like none of them actually replicated it themselves and did it in their lab, and they were just going off other people's data, but they declared it debunked, and they were sure of it, and
it's like the free energy stuff. Is over unity possible? Eventually, it's going to come out, and eventually, it will hit the mainstream. It just takes time. No different with superconductors. Eventually, something's going to be made, and
there's got to be something made, man. It's going to happen eventually.
We're going to get. There's too many people working on it. It's just a matter of time. It's like, look at computers, okay? Look how they started.
There's even more people working on it now since the LK99.
Right. Now that's going to spark a lot more engineers and
so even if it was fake, it was good for the community.
Sure. And same thing with computers. Look at 1995 how slow the computer was, and look at the progress every 12 months.
Oh God,
the
yes.
Processor got faster and faster and faster and faster, and look where we are today. Our cell phones have more computing power that was in the space shuttle. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty incredible when you think about it. In 25 years, how far we've come in computer technology. Stuff that we only dreamed of in movies is now actually starting to become reality now because of the power of a computer and what it can do. So, now we're getting into quantum computers. That's just going to set things into a whole new direction, right? So it's just a matter of time. It's like anything.
It's the quickening is accelerating, right? Like
that's right. Yeah, you got so many people around the world working on the same thing. Discoveries are going to be made, period. And it's going to happen faster than you think. So, obviously, like anti-gravity or gravity control and free energy, we're working on stuff that's not.
I have to personally say about Trump, it's like, it is like, he's part of the same clown show, but at least he's the candidate that said he would end the Ukraine war in one day of getting elected. He's the anti-war, and then they've put 5 arrests on him since, right? He was the anti-war.
Oh
yeah. But JF or Kennedy as well on the other side is also anti-war and claiming he would end it too. Either way, I don't want to die from World War III. I don't want World War III breaking out, and I would endorse anyone that their policy is to end the war, not escalate it.
Well, unfortunately, look at past history. Okay, you had the Great Depression, 1928, that time frame, and then what basically got everybody out of the Great Depression was World War II. So they create these wars to do a reset, smash things up, rebuild, and it creates all this new prosperity in their eyes, kind of thing. But look how many people have to die for it. You know what I mean?
Hey guys, I hope this was enough fun for a little bit. I got to bounce. I might be back a little bit later.
Okay, no worries,
but
brother. And
we'll jump and do some more of these, man. I'll show you guys how to do like all this yourself within 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding. It's so easy.
I love it, and I know you will. So if you make it back tonight, we'll cover it when you get back. If not, we'll make another stream of it. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, too bad we didn't get a chance to talk, but your AI generated images, you always find such awesome work. It's pretty cool.
Oh, we got to show this one before.
I thought you were going to do Trump with a chimpanzee or Tarzan.
We'll get there. We'll get there. This one isn't bad, man. For the first one for the night on SDXL.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what happens if you search over Unity coil?
You mean like in the prompt?
Yeah. For free energy coil. I'm just curious what it comes up with.
But just by itself, we'll see.
It comes up with my schematic.
Sometimes when it's a little bit more abstract like this, like free isn't a visual term. And energy
over Unity might work better then.
Over Unity, maybe?
Unlimited energy coil?
Yeah, that might work.
Oh, look, there it is.
Is that what you're looking for?
Interesting.
Right? I'm liking this. Right? It's how it interprets the physics, the geometry of it. That's so fascinating. Great ideas, Jeremiah. And as a reference, it was Jeremiah giving these same sort of ideas to Thomas that generated these backgrounds that we have on here right now. Also using these physics style terminology.
Oh, that's pretty cool too, man.
Yes.
Right?
I'm liking these, man. I got a bunch of stuff that I just emailed myself, pictures and videos too, that we'll get into in just a second here. I should be able to just share my screen and hopefully that
I'm
works.
surprised it didn't show that
that's
Iron
cool.
Man.
Yeah, dude, we'll hop on and I'll do a whole bunch of them with you guys pretty soon. Sorry, I've
So
got
this
about
is so.
We gotta
this is
remember
AI
to search
generated.
Much appreciated and 100%. And we've done one episode that was exactly like this. The first one we did together, and well, this was the fourth. So by the fifth, we'll do it all over again.
I love you guys,
Nice to
man.
meet
Have an
you
awesome
guys.
weekend.
Much
Yeah,
love.
cheers,
Thanks, Nate.
guys.
Pleasure to meet you too, brother. And we'll to many more episodes together in the future. All right. So we got Mike Faraday, Jeremiah, and Jeremy with us. The all science cast right here. I'll let you guys take it over a little bit.
Yeah.
As I know.
Oh, Mike,
I
I
just
just want to say.
shared in the private chat if you want to bring that up on the screen.
Mike, by the way, thanks for those comments. That kind of helps me out a bit too.
Hey guys, how you doing? You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, this is the Interstellar Research Group Symposium.
Go on.
This was a meeting they had, I guess, last week, August 16th, and I couldn't make it, unfortunately, but it's all posted here live, open source. Yeah, check out some of these lectures that were put on, or presentations that were put on by this Interstellar group. There's some cool stuff here, man. I haven't seen them all yet, but Science is Golden, SETI and the Fermi Paradox. How about this one? Large-scale directed energy for relativistic flight.
Right? Like it's a
Oh,
whole
lots of
nother
cool stuff
APEC
to go
in
check
itself.
out later. I just saw this before the podcast, so I haven't had time to dig in, but I wanted to share it so that, because it's right up everyone's alley. The promise of beamed energy for spacecraft propulsion and power. Fuck yeah. I'm going to go watch these.
Absolutely. I'm having a feeling I'm probably going to stream a couple of these while we watch them in some future Real Science episodes. Maybe even we might play one of them by the end of this. But that's an awesome share. Thanks, Jeremy. I put it in the live chat for everyone too.
Hell yeah. Dig into that. Lots of great stuff there.
Straight knowledge. It's all about.
You guys heard of Patrick Kelly?
Oh yeah, I've talked to Patrick several times on some video call and private calls. He definitely has a very, very good idea about what could be happening with these craft, and his view of squeezed light and high energy states is extremely valid to look at. I think it explains a lot of things, and it's not that difficult to build. It just does require specialty materials to focus and concentrate the energy. But he was pretty straightforward. He's like graphene as his most ideal material. That's one of his, one of his pet favorites. And it's something that we can make in tiny quantities right now. But if we can make it in large enough quantities, basically what he's telling us is that if we excite that with high frequency radio waves, and we have a sufficient amount of charge, that it should generate some kind of a cold plasma, and we get plenty of plasmon polaritons. And so that should focus in a huge amount of energy into each of the little points of the hydrogen and compress a long photon into a really, really tiny space. He estimates it's like 6,000 times compression as it enters through that material, and it should give it a negative mass.
Is this regarding the Brownson effect? Yeah.
The what effect?
You know, what Patrick's working on, the high voltage.
I didn't hear what effect you said, though.
The T. Townsend Brownson?
Oh, no, Patrick Kelly's not working on the Townsend-Brown effect as far as I know.
I'm only familiar with its transformer ideas.
Oh, you know what? I apologize. That entire time, you know how I was describing? Brian Kelly, not Patrick Kelly. I apologize. I get those two names mixed up. I got mild dyslexia sometimes.
Yeah, Patrick Kelly does all the free energy videos and designs and builds and stuff. But I think he passed a few years ago, sadly. But I did share his channel there in the live chat for everyone, and that video that Mike put up there, transformers where output power exceeds input power. I
do know about Brian Kelly, Patrick Kelly, though. I'm sorry. I also recommend check out Brian Kelly since that name was mistakenly brought up. Check out Brian Kelly's channel. He does have a YouTube channel, and he talks about UAP propulsion and has many different approaches to it. So well worth a look if you're not familiar. Although the videos are kind of poorly produced and strung out, they are full of good information. But Patrick Kelly, yeah, I liked his coverage on the what's that guy's name? The Don Smith system. He does a couple of deep dive videos.
Right. I recently looked at this one video. I put it in the chat here about the transformer, and I, went over it pretty well. I understand what he's talking about. If you guys want me to go over it. On the core material and how the back EMF is going to flow and all that. If there's any...
I was going to say, so they're using the back EMF to create an over equity situation. How are you introducing more energy into that then?
It has to do with the energy density in volts per meter and amps.
I guess I can play the video. It's 7 minutes if we want first.
Yeah, play the video. And let's debate it.
Good evening, gentlemen, by the way.
Welcome back, Mr. Ian.
Good to see you, gentlemen.
Yeah, good to see you. It comes from two types of people. One, barefaced liars, or two, really, really ignorant people. It is as correct as stating water is not wet. And it's part of a campaign which has been waged against us for more than 100 years now. One of the main devices intended to fool us is this one. This is a typical transformer as used in mains power supplies, amplifiers, televisions, and so on. It really is intended to fool you into disregarding obvious sources of free energy, such as sunlight, rain, wind, gravity, and so on. The cunning part of a standard transformer is that it's symmetrical, and so it's forced to oppose itself when you try to use it.
Hey, Bernie, turn on CC.
Because it opposes itself, and only because it opposes itself, it can never be more than 100% efficient. And we're surrounded by ignorant people and liars, both of whom assure us that more than 100% efficiency is impossible.
It's time asymmetry, not physical asymmetry.
Right. The problem here, though, is this transformer is symmetrical.
Let's examine the facts.
That's the problem.
This is how a symmetrical transformer works.
That's why
when an electrical pulse of input is applied to coil 1,
it's the same
it creates a magnetic wave shown by the blue arrows. That
might
magnetic
be a
wave
little
flows
confusing for some.
through, around the magnetic frame and through coil 2.
Where's the...
That magnetic wave
Right here, he's just explaining
generates a voltage
the
in
basic
coil
transformer.
2,
And
which
why
is
Yeah,
you end
fed
up
to
getting
the
basic
maintained load.
transformer theory, you know, has like how many windings, and there's a ratio of windings that and everything, you know.
His point here is that primary coil 1 with the input is the same dimensions as coil 2. So they're going to oppose each other because they are symmetrical. It's the back EMF specifically, when the back EMF occurs, it will look for a matching coil to cancel itself with. And if there is no matching coil to cancel itself with, what happens? It doesn't get to cancel, does it? So it has to go somewhere else and just keep going. I just want to say that. Just keep that in mind.
Unfortunately, this only happens when the voltage applied to coil 1 is changing. And so a transformer is fed alternating current, which changes continuously like this. This is a sine wave, and for half of the time, the sine wave is positive, and half of the time, the sine wave is negative. Transformers are always used with this sort of continuously changing voltage. In his 1842 book, Manual of Magnetism, Daniel Davis points out that when current flowing through a coil is cut off, it produces a back EMF voltage pulse which can be cascaded through several coils, each coil having the reverse direction current flow through it compared to its neighbors. So it passes from this coil to this one, which is a transformer. It's passed on to the next one, which goes from this one to this one as a transformer. Signals passed on to this one, which goes to this coil, which is a transformer.
Here he's explaining how the back EMF can be passed on
and
with
every one of
symmetrical
those
coils, but
gets
inverted
energized
windings,
when this switch, which
which
was
makes them
closed, is open.
asymmetrical because of the
That
inverted
cuts off
winding.
the current flowing in coil number 1
Many ways to do
and
asymmetric.
creates that back EMF voltage spike. The reverse pulse from any coil, when it's cut off, is very important. And while we can use it very usefully in pulse charging battery circuits, such as those from Alex Gore of Russia, it's a major problem for a transformer. In a transformer, that magnetic back EMF pulse runs back through the transformer frame and opposes the operation of coil 1, requiring the input power to have to be boosted to overcome it. That back EMF magnetic flow is shown by the red arrows in this diagram. The larger the current draw from coil 2 to power the load, the larger the input to coil 1 has to be. Now that is a stupid transformer design. Like the flow of electricity, magnetic flow passes along every possible flow path available. The amount of magnetic flow along any path depends on the magnetic resistance of that path. So if the path has a large cross-sectional area and the material is suitable, then major magnetic current will flow through it. Thane Hines has made a home-built asymmetrical transformer and shown that it has a power output which is 39 times greater than its power input. Think about that carefully. You have a university professor telling you that a transformer has to have an efficiency less than 100%. And then you have Thane Hines demonstrating his transformer putting out 3900%, 39 times more power than it's supplied with. What does that tell you about what the university professor says? A good professor is either very ignorant or he's telling deliberate lies. Anyway, let's examine the transformer.
He stepped away for a minute.
Hines. It doesn't look all that much different. We have coils 1 and 2 as before, but now we have an additional output coil 3 and a second load, which is powered by coil number 3. As before, we put a power pulse into coil 1, and that causes a magnetic flow, this time in 2 directions through both of the output coils, and that powers both of the loads through voltage generated in coil 2 and coil 3.
Feel like you're paying too much for weed in Canada? Spending an arm and a leg on the medicine you need? This company sure thinks so.
Targeted
Supply,
advertising.
an online dispensary made by licensed Canadian cannabis growers in British Columbia, have set to offer the biggest and cheapest selection of cannabis, edibles, vapes, concentrates, and even magic mushrooms. And the best part is they ship right from Vancouver with 2-day fully discreet shipping.
Sorry about that.
Hey,
But
so
the which you start.
Pause it for a second where the core shows up.
let's
You see how that core has like 2 legs, one thicker and one thinner leg going up around. The thinner leg is for the input power to transmit to the outer 2 coils from the center coil, which is the coil receiving the power. And the thicker leg is for where the back EMF will go that direction because it's thicker, because it's more iron. So that the energy will go in the path of least resistance. So some of the initial energy used to charge coil 1 will also go through the thicker part of the coil. Will go also through the thinner part. But the focus here is to use the thicker part of the core to capture the back EMF in a way where it doesn't go back into the primary coil. So when the back EMF does occur, because of that, it has an alternate path. It doesn't have to go back to coil 1. It's got an easier path to go around the top there to each other of the 2 coils, so they can kind of like feed each other with back EMF more than they'll be. So basically, the back EMF will flow more towards away from coil 1 because of the thicker section of the core there, allowing that to happen. It's more iron, less iron. You can see it at the bottom there, right where the top coil 1 is. You see the thinner piece of iron, and you have a thicker piece of iron. So that's how that thicker piece of iron allows for the back EMF to go another direction away from the primary coil 1, which is what you don't want it to do, because when it backflows into the primary coil 1, it causes you to need to boost up your power to push it the other direction, in the direction that you want the energy to flow. Of course, you can harness the back EMF by keeping it flowing back to your primary and having it go in another direction. When it comes back to the primary, it causes energy loss and friction, if you want to call it, heat. So that's why it's thicker. The 2 outer coils have a thicker core. You see that? And the center coil has a thinner core. So there's less incentive for the back EMF to enter the center coil with the center thinner core. There's more incentive for the back EMF to travel through the core material, which is the iron. The red arrows are inside the core there. So that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, one of the other systems that I like really considering that goes beyond this device, which is it's sort of in this
way he's enabling that in this way with the core he's enabling the back EMF to
making
flow
it over
but to the primary.
Right. There is another principle that must take place here, and it has to do with the core saturation. It is actually about the core saturation which causes the flux paths to be diverted through.
Right. If your core is more than your saturation going to ever be, if you got to, your amps and your volts down up, if your core is way bigger than you're ever going to really saturate, you're not going to. You can vary your input voltage to keep yourself below that saturation and allowing room for the back EMF to.
I'm sorry to ask you, I'm sorry to stop you in the middle of your talking, but is there any way that you can get yourself like twice as close to your mic, because you're so far away that I'm hearing more echo than your voice?
Yeah, it's super echoey. There's a couple things too, Mike. I want to point out that some of the terminology is a little bit off, because you're referring to this as resistance inside of this thing, but resistance is only when you're dealing with DC. So as soon as you start dealing with AC circuits, you deal with what's called impedance. And the iron cores that are used in typical transformers, a lot of these high efficiency transformers use what's called met glass, which is actually metallic glass transformer core alloy, and it's so those are like the highest performance ones that I know of on the market. I wonder if
that's a simple core we're looking at here. We're not. That's a simple round core. We're talking.
Yeah, that's a simple round core. I wonder if you could reach out to
this
net glass
material to the design.
The geometry in the core is what allows for the back EMF to go in another direction. It's the actual shape of the core, having two circles, one outer bigger circle and one inner smaller thinner circle. The outer circle is bigger to carry more back EMF flow, to have it go that direction instead of the inner core, which is thinner and less material. But
it's a simple enough design. It should be easy enough to try and run some experiments.
Yeah, I have actually run experiments with that design, and there's another variant of it called the bitoroid. In their relation to the bitoroid, it was Bill Alec tried to replicate a version of the bitoroid with a tritoroid, using the same kinds of principles, and he did get what looked like over unity, but he didn't measure phase correctly, so I don't know. But my point is that it doesn't matter so much about the physical geometry of the core being exactly that shape. It just matters that there are two parallel flux paths, and one of them has a much higher saturation because it's more material of the same material, or it's a different material than the other flux path. And so they can be orthogonal to each other as long as the magnetic flux can pass down.
Yeah.
The other thing too is though it is about changing the magnetic domains, the spin nuclear magnetic moments inside the iron. And so in iron, we have large domains where lots of nuclei flip at once through the electron shell flipping, and they will drag the nuclei with them, realign all the protons and neutrons. Well, it's that motion that causes a phase delay of the energy transfer. And so you end up changing the momentum and therefore the refractive index around those individual iron atoms. And that's where the extra energy is coming in from the time differential for them to repolarize. When they're out of phase with the outside, as Story and Sarge might call it, cosmic.
Well, the extra energy that's occurring is actually reversed polarity energy. It's the inverse of our energies, but our energy is in one direction. The excess
you got to think about the vacuum.
Device is going in the other direction. It's the reverse.
This is not an electromagnetic phenomena from the engineering side. This is a vacuum and aether phenomena where the extra energy comes from. So it's important to recognize the difference, that it's more than just.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't have to be it's a pressure phenomenon.
Right, pressure from the outside ZPF. Let me take a second.
Electromagnetics is just an avenue for accessing this pressure.
Yeah, let me take a second to divert from that and go ahead and play this. And so I don't know if sound's going to come through. I'll try real quick. I just made this practice. So did you hear sound?
I think so.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll mute this. So and I'll just talk over it. So this is a press disc of ferric oxycarbon, and we can see some pretty similar behaviors of LK99. You'll notice the axes that it's hovering on is orthogonal to the axes of the LK99, so it's a semi ferromagnetic material. Now that material actually was ferromagnetic, which means the response there is purely because it's aligning with the magnetic fields of the magnet. There is no levitation; it's not superconductive or anything, but we noticed an orthogonal ferromagnetism response from the Korean sample video. And that's why it's pretty terrible, because their demonstrations, they're not showing much for diamagnetism. They're showing really a ferromagnetic response on orthogonal axes. And that can happen from charge trapping, charged electron states, sort of like we talked about, trapped light. So here's another thing, and this is an important tool. I just put this together. It's a little BNC oscilloscope Hall effect probe. It's a linear probe, so from the front, one pole gives you a positive polarity, the other gives you a negative polarity, and then it's got a pretty decent high frequency response. So this I'm going to use to look for ghost fields. In the front there is a Hall effect probe pointing that way, the battery, the 5-volt switching circuit to step up to 3.7 volts. Then we have the power switch, the USB-C charging port, and then the BNC that we can remove the cable from.
That's a magic wand and a half, that, isn't it, mate?
It certainly is necessary when you want to look for fields in a live fashion.
Yeah.
And I looked online to see if I could find one of these things, and you can find them. They're incredibly expensive. Now, as we lead into the next couple of things, and I'll show you more about that in just a second, I'm going to show you this video. This is a coil winding rig that I designed, and it's built for making a special kind of wire. And so you can just see the feed spool comes around. It's just hot glued to that wood post, and it's attached to this brass tube. Now, in the center there, we have this little removable piece, and it's got a notch cut in it that guides the wire to the center. And another wire goes through the center hole, and I'll show you in a second what that does. It's in the next video. You'll actually see it working. And why I have to build this silly winding machine. So there it is. The wire is coming in from the right side, going through the center, and it's taking the wire from the spool that's on that rig, and it's wrapping it around. As you can see on the right side there, it's wrapping that wire around to form a guitar string made of copper. And so once you get it started, you can run this continuously for the entire length of wire that's on the moving spool there.
Well done there. Very nice.
Let me go ahead and I'll stop that share, and then I'm going to go ahead and present one more time. And I'll share my Chrome tab. Let's see. That must be it. Okay, now I'll share this. It's my computer's been on for a while, so it is particularly lagging. It's taking its sweet time, so this is going to load. Now, that's the inside of the probe that we looked at earlier. You can see it a little bit better. See your 5-volt switching circuit and your power switch and all that stuff. And this was not expensive to make. Now, here's something that I'm working on. This is a special transformer. And you can see that it's made with that wire we just looked at. It's made on the winding machine. And so what's going to happen here is this is going to run a magnetic flux through the core. And it's going to run it like a conventional toroidal transformer. But orthogonal to that A field, we're also going to have this secondary coil that is picking up the electric field, but it can't actually produce any voltage. However, the permeability of space-time, because there's a current flowing through it, is modified around this coil. So here we can change the permeativity of the wire that's running through the center. That's already changing the permeability. Now, what happens when you change both epsilon and mu? And by the way, this is the inside of the core. You can see it's made of 2 individual magnets, and they're basically glued together, super glued together. They are north to north face, and then it's just insulated, and it's just wound around like this. So what happens when you cancel epsilon and mu together? Well, you end up with a compound effect where the speed of light is changed in that local refractive index. And that's how we're going to use that to extract extra power, because Brownian motion has to also be affected by the local velocity c. And Brownian motion is generally random. It's uniform in all directions. So you can't extract extra energy from it, which is why Lord Kelvin said you can never draw energy back after entropy has basically scattered it. You just can't get the energy back. Well, if you change the rate flow of time between 2 physical volumes of space, now all of a sudden all the vectors towards the compressed space, or the slower, the space where the time is flowing slower, the vectors that are exactly in that direction pointing towards it are going to be stretched out longer, whereas the vectors that are orthogonal from that axis are not going to be stretched out. And so you're going to actually be able to gain the momentum difference from random Brownian motion and add it to the electrical input because it's polarized. And so you'll find that this type of device is operating off something called cold electricity, which means that it's stealing Brownian motion from the local environment and converting it. But it does rely on a delicate phase balance, and it does rely on a huge number of domain changes inside the core structure of the 2 opposing magnets. Because we're never depolarizing them, we're just flipping those individual nuclei to slow down time so that we can gain that effect inwards towards the transformer on the back EMF pulse. And it's a more advanced version of what we were talking about earlier with Brian Kelly or with the MEG. And we're not using just pure ferromagnetic elements, but we're using elements that are completely composed of a magnetized, non-conductive, non-eddy current leaking material. So I'll go back to this. This is a picture of the angle wire up close and blurry. And this is basically what it looks like, that wire that the winding machine makes. And this is what I made out of it. This is one of those other iterations as well. So this is a 14 by 14 by 14 torus with 4 interweaves. And so it's a total of 16 wires, and that means every time current passes through one path, like when it flows around in a loop, there's also another wire that's going to pick up the electric field that I can use to modify that part of the refractive index. And so it'll stack these layers on top of each other like Matryoshka nesting dolls, all the way down to the very center core. And what I'll use is
we lost you.
Crap, I was just about to go and stream this on my channel. This is getting good, you know.
I've got my AI. I've put in anti-gravity machine into my AI, which I've got running behind me here.
You got to take a picture of that coil and put that into the AI.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh shit! How long was I muted?
Yeah, you got muted there,
And I lost sound.
Jeremiah.
I was muted and I lost sound. I think I killed my audio.
Go again from the beginning.
I have to leave and come back.
Yeah, we got to go back to the beginning. That was absolutely epic, Jeremiah.
I'm gonna go live on my channel.
Definitely do.
With that, dude. Start over again.
Oh, I think he's just coming back in, and then he'll do it for sure. That's Bob Greenier's bagel coil design there that Jeremiah is essentially utilizing, and that's the 369 aspect of the vortex-based mathematics, is that bagel coil.
Unbelievable. How long was I muted?
Solid.
Were you talking?
Yeah, he was. You got to restart it all, redo it, and Jeremy's gonna stream it on his channel as well.
Yeah. You gotta be kidding. I don't know if it's gonna mute me or not.
We're live.
It's screwing with me. Oh, Mike's got something live right now, so we should go to him for now.
Yeah, start from the beginning. Just start it over again. Pretend like you were quiet for the whole thing, and just go right from the beginning.
That's fucking unbelievable.
So, for reference of everyone that's just tuning in on Jeremy's channel, Jeremiah was giving an excellent presentation of his bagel coil, which got cut off. So he's going to start over and do it again. But first, we've got Mike set up with his work. So we'll let Mike explain his, and then Jeremiah will start over with the bagel coil.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So lately, I've been cutting some wheels on the water jet, and I got a ceramic bearing in the center. 4 neodymium and 2 magnets. These things spin amazing. They're really, really good. So I've got the new wheel. I just purchased a new transducer. That was about 1.5 inches in diameter. It's 60 kilohertz and 35 watts. And it's really good effects. Now I'm also putting high voltage into the motor now. So this one's set at 100 volts. DC at 7 milliamps, and the results are quite dramatic. So I'll fire it up here. You guys can see it. Wires here.
Mike, you're super quiet. I don't know if you're far away from your mic or what, but.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There we go. Now Mike's on the mic. Sometimes it's covered.
Mike, in case you get to 88 miles an hour, what date have you set the thing to?
You gotta turn that down. Wow.
Is it too loud?
1.21 jigger.
Not you, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it me? Is my mic really loud?
You came in like Zeus there.
21 gigawatts.
Thundering.
Better. Am I better here?
Yeah, that's better.
There you go.
Yeah, so yeah, the output of this is quite a bit higher now that I got the second transducer hooked up. So basically, I've been reading up a lot on what Newman was doing, and it's turning out that his theory is, I would say, correct. You got to put in a lot of voltage in, and it doesn't require current. as long as you got a big mass like that. That coil there is 1 pound of 24 gauge wire. And yeah, you can see the back EMF is quite intense. So that's a 60 watt rated bulb. So when I hook it up to the watt hour meter, it's actually 7 watts of true wattage. So I'm putting in 1.1 watts and getting out about 7 watts based on my readings from the watt hour meter. And it's all because of this little high voltage converter. So it's putting in 12 volts and getting 100 volts in.
So you're getting that from the spin. You're getting that from the spin. Why could you not just use a bicycle wheel?
You could use any wheel you want. Like this one's quite small.
It's the coil that's feeding the light, not the wheel.
The coil is where the current is being generated. It's not by the battery.
Yes. Yes, that's why I'm saying if it was bicycle wheel powered, it would eliminate any there's wires under the table claims from people, you know.
Yeah, this is real. This is a bulk.
Well, I mean, this thing is a super famous modification of a classic circuit called the Bedini schoolgirl circuit. It's a really simple back EMF wheel driver, and it generates power on the opposite side of where most motors do. Most motors will push and pull, so you have a continuous coupling from the rotor to the stator. And in this case, the stator doesn't exert much force on the rotor, but the rotor is then hit by the back EMF. And so right at top dead center, where it's the most efficient and closest proximity before it has a chance to move away, it gets this big pulse at the most efficient point. And the point
so
is
that Hall effect sensor is flipping the waveform.
It's triggering the I'm using the
back EMF is flowing. Back EMF is flowing out the 1N4007 HV diode, the high voltage diode. That's where it's going. It's going the reverse polarity. When you energize the coil, plus and minus. When the back EMF happens, it's going to be minus plus. It's going to reverse polarity. It's going to go out the high voltage diode, which is arranged in a direction for the reverse polarity.
Right. So you're also looking at something different here, too. So this isn't just the Bedini. Yeah, this is not just the Bedini circuit. This is also an integration of Norman Wutan's oscillator, which uses piezoelectric elements to phase delay in a physical mechanical way, not just electrically, but to mechanically phase delay the signal, which allows it to interact with the external environment at a distance. And this is a very good way to basically separate the cause and effect from the input signal, where Lenz's law would normally affect and load it, and then the output pulse, where it's going to provide rotational motion and acceleration to the rotor.
Yeah, this motor's got a lot of torque.
Can you describe how that's happening, the piezo, how that's...
it's basically set up in parallel with the coil. The ideal spot would actually be right behind the coil. So it's like piezoelectrics. If you apply physical pressure onto it,
using force. What are you using for your piezo?
It's a barium titanate. Barium titanate, which is
just a piece of metal in parallel with the coil.
It's in parallel with the coil, yeah. But it's also getting hit with a disruptive discharge from the auto relay switch. I modified it to actually trigger very fast. So it's getting a disruptive discharge. The back EMF ricochets, hits the transducer, and then you get that flyback. And as a result, you get huge output.
We're using the back EMF to vibrate the piezoelectric.
Yeah. Instead of putting a physical stress on that transducer, I'm slamming it with a voltage.
Right. The back EMF.
Yeah. Right. So as the magnet approaches the solenoid, the polarity is attracted, which means that the magnet actually reduces the amount of power that it takes for polarization of the core material. And then when it flips around, there's no more power supply connected to it. So the power supply built up a magnetic flux by using the approach of the rotor and its magnets to reach a magnetic saturation point that's above the electrical energy input. And then when it goes back EMF, the rotor is moving away. And so instead of going completely negative, it basically just demagnetizes completely, but the motional magnetic field, or the amps per meter in terms of the magnetic flux, is now repulsive. And so you get the extra energy on sort of both sides depending on how you run it. And it's a delicate balance. Like, most of the stuff will go in losses. And a solenoid coil like what Mike's using right now is convenient, but it's really one of the worst kinds of coils to use because it has high internal self-capacitance, which is all parasitic for this circuit.
Which part has the high internal?
Sorry, say that again.
What happens if you disconnect?
Where's the high internal capacitance here?
It won't run itself.
I mean,
It's made it
causing the high internal
extremely
capacitance?
efficient.
Is it the coil or is it the?
Yeah, the internal capacitance in the coil. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. When you
Mike,
get the
sorry to interrupt, Mike. Is this the one when you unplug it, it starts, it stops, and then it starts spinning in the opposite direction, and then accelerates in the back?
Yeah, it works with capacitors. Yeah, it'll run down basically down to about half a volt, and when that occurs, it slows down. It bounces back and forth, and then starts spinning in the opposite direction, and I could get about another 15 minutes of run time with less than a half a volt.
I wonder if that's because the potential across your solenoid is causing parasitic losses due to self-capacitance. Wow, hey, check this out, awesome. I wonder if it's because you have parasitic capacitive losses in your coil, and if you wound your solenoid differently, or if you didn't use something with such high internal capacitance, it would allow you to operate at a higher voltage before it started to do that.
So what? Well, more windings or less windings?
Yeah. So
it's not about more or less.
You want to give it more windings.
It's not about more or less windings. It's about the capacitance between the windings. They need to be physically farther away from each other, which means magnet wire on a tight wrap is about the opposite of what you want. You could wind a spaced solenoid and then insulate the layers, or you could wind a totally different type of coil, like say a pancake or something with spaced windings, and then do multiple pancakes stacked on top of each other in order to get rid of that problem. Yeah, you'll notice all of Tesla's oscillators, all of his secondary coils and his extra coils are spaced out, much unlike today's Tesla coils. He always uses at least double spacing or triple spacing to the thickness of the wire between conductors, and that's extremely important.
Yeah, I've been noticing that people are saying that we should space the coils, but not understanding how that's making what role it plays in your efficiency.
Yeah, back in the day, there used to be something called a weave wound coil, and it was a zigzag back and forth three-dimensional coil where most of the wires were kind of semi-orthogonal to each other. When they crossed over, they crossed at a narrow point, sort of like a star coil, but along the other axis, built tall instead of wide. And that significantly reduces the self-capacitance and allows you to capture this back EMF effect and the local refractive index change much more effectively without the losses.
So
now that we got Jero, he can talk on this because that's how his coils work.
So spacing a coil, it helps lose the inductive reactance.
Right, it gets rid of it almost.
Why would you want to get rid of the inductive reactance?
Because it's parasitic.
How? How's that?
It slows down the signal, which reduces the maximum volts per meter of the radiated field.
Mike, what are we doing with this thing? Why are we building this, and what does it do?
Well, I'm testing out the theory, to eventually get it to the point where it can recharge itself and maintain its own power source, right? So it will eventually be looped. I'm just trying to get the science down first, right? And I've been working on this for 5 years, and then all of a sudden I figured try to hook up a transducer to it, and my gains quite a bit higher. So I knew I was onto something, and I just kind of went with it. It's just a lot of it's experimentation. You just got to get on the bench and do it, right? Try different ideas. I've always got new ideas running through my head how to improve this thing, right? But as far as efficiency is concerned,
parasitic.
really feel that. I really think that.
I can't hear anything he's saying. Can any of you?
No,
Yeah,
I was
Mike,
just saying
I think you're covering your microphone on your cell phone the way you're holding it. That happens to me when I'm recording sometimes. And welcome, Gerald. Thanks for joining.
Well,
can you guys hear me now better?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, it was my headset that was dying, so I had to switch it. Yeah.
Slowly
I think. So I personally, I think it's Newman was really onto something very correct as far as putting high voltage at a low current and then hitting a large mass. Mass is where the current is generated. Put a high voltage in a coil, the current's going to be generated in that coil.
Yeah, with I'll mention this about his system too.
Sorry, guys.
First, they had friggin' Jeremiah was presenting and his audio cut out right when I was going live.
Yeah.
And then now Mike's trying to present his stuff, and I can't hear a goddamn word he's saying.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
We can a bit now. Jeremiah, do you want to go back and
yeah, we can do that
the
now.
bagel coil now? And thank you, Mike. Awesome work, Mike Faraday Research.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, the bagel thing was interesting. I want to know what's going on with that. So I also think it would be cool to show that.
I can hear you, D, but you're quiet. You're very quiet. Everybody
You
seems
have
to have
those
audio
diagrams
today.
too. It would be cool to show like what feedback EMF is and how that you harvest that with the different transformer shape. But anyways, let's get into.
So let me say something about back EMF. When you have the inductance, it's going to block your reception of back EMF, like Jeremy was saying. It's parasitic to the back EMF. Induction is. So with the Newman motor, by using a very low current, next to none if you can achieve that, and high voltage, and he was using 9-volt batteries that were all dead, and they had next to no current in them. That's a way of creating potential with very little induction. In other words, a system that will not block the back EMF.
Yeah, the less capacitance you have, the more potential you're going to instantaneously get, and the less losses, and that is really what you want. So I don't know. I'm guessing that when I was talking over the video, that audio came through. Is that right? So while I was playing the videos earlier,
you might as well just restart your presentation from the beginning, Jeremiah, as we weren't live on the Alien Scientist channel, and then we went live and it's ended. So just begin from the beginning, because that bagel coil is next level, and what you're reproducing and experimenting with the Bob Greenyer Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project bagel coil is where the design's from, correct?
It's similar to his design, and that's where the motivation for that design came from. And what I did was several steps beyond what has been done so far with bagel coils, and I was able to do that much more easily because I found a way to make wire that almost self-winds and allows me to create even more complicated layered geometries. So the bagel coil is what we call a 3-tor, and I'll get into that here. So let me go ahead and explain this. I don't know. I think we just lose somebody. We got somebody there. Okay, so what we're looking at here, this is the Hall effect probe that I showed that I'll be showing a video of in just a second, since we're sort of restarting this. And this probe has a BNC connector on the end, a USB charging port, a power switch, a 5-volt step-up boost converter from this 3.7-volt battery, and then at the very end here we have a Hall effect probe, and that's a linear S49 probe, S49E. I'll show you a video of that in just a second, but let me just show you a couple of things since I've already got this email open. This is a transformer that I'm building, and this transformer uses a special kind of wire, which we'll get into in a moment. This wire is basically like a guitar string made of copper, and it's wound around a double magnet core. Now, very much like you'll see in Norman Wooten's stuff where he uses a magnet what you have in the Manila system. Here we're using a permanent magnet as a ferrite core. And the two north poles are stuck together in the center. And then it's wrapped around with this this double conductor wire where one conductor through the center is straight and the other is wrapped around. And so the reason for why this is actually important and why this makes it different from another transformer is what happens when we have two orthogonal fields. When we have an electric field that's on one axis and we have a magnetic field that's naturally 90 degrees to it. Well, normally we can only pick up one of the two fields with the conductor, like the two that are parallel, say two coils of a transformer that are parallel with each other. Well, in this case, all the windings that roll around this toroidal core wrapped around it like a conventional transformer are surrounded by another set of windings that are orthogonal to those and don't induce a current into the core. All they can do is basically induce a change in epsilon surrounding the conductor that goes around this core. But epsilon and mu are what define the speed of light, and they define the interaction with the magnetic system like this one with the outside environment. So here we can pass current through the outside wrap and change epsilon for the inside conductor whose epsilon is actually perfectly aligned with the one that we're changing, but whose mu is not affected. And this will allow us to convert Brownian motion from the ambient environment by creating a time differential where the force vectors of the accelerated motional particles, just due to thermionic motion, are now they're now curved in towards and extended along the gradient where the time is slower inside this core and inside this wire. And so those force vectors extend. And this is a direct opposition to Lord Kelvin's statement that you can't extract energy from the thermal basin because entropy has already nullified it. This is a Maxwell's demon situation where we're using a temporal differential or a squeezing of electromagnetic energy, squeeze light effectively, to try and draw extra energy out of the system. Now that special wire looks like this when you look at it close, and here you can see that there's a center conductor running through and it's got this wrapped conductor. This is what the wire looks like, but the two conductors are actually the same size, unlike this picture. And this is another device that I wound with that same stuff. And this is a 14 by 14 by 14 torus. And so the three main toruses that are each orthogonal to each other, we have these ones here. Can you see my arrow, by the way? Can you see my mouse pointer?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So these ones here that are sort of wrapped around this core like this, they're orthogonal, but there's also a wire that's running parallel that it's wrapped around each of these loops as if it's a core. And then, of course, we have the core inside that, which has got other loops wrapped around to a single loop, and then we've got another core inside that, which is orthogonal. So we have a total of 8 individual conductors here for 16 terminations. You can see the rat's nest here. And what's going to happen here is every single time we flip epsilon and mu, compared to the center axis wrapping around this thing, we're adding a layer of field compression, one more boundary layer where the refractive index has to twist 90 degrees before it can reach the next. And this supports a sort of Matryoshka nesting doll style arrangement. And in doing these stacked fields, what we're doing is effectively slowing down the speed of light. So I should be able to take the center conductor of that coil and tell if, based on its inductance and the amount of time that it takes for a signal to pass through it, if I've slowed down the speed of light due to the fact there's no ferromagnetic elements anywhere in these 8 layers.
What I just envisioned and realized is that it's like the coil within the coil within the coil. It's the field within, or the bubble within the bubble within the bubble, as David Soretta likes to say, but you're actually incorporating the twisting, moving of essentially like the universe, galactical orbits and rotations of energy and everything and spin, that you've got essentially the gyroscope within that coil all in one as the energy movement.
Right. It is an electromagnetic gyroscope. So it takes the J-curl tensor, aka the torsion tensor, and the electric scalar, and it inverts them back and forth and layers them 8 deep. And what the reason why this is more interesting than just, say, a conventional stacked coil is each time you go one layer deeper, all the layers on the outside are affecting the layers on the inside. So we're talking about a sort of low energy warp drive effect, and we're not having to pump out all that power into one single area. because each layer affects the next. And this will allow us to use all positive energy states to create a significant temporal distortion in the affected region.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
The way that we would normally harness a dynamo, for instance, we spin a dynamo, and a dynamo is essentially an electric motor working in reverse. Yeah. Okay. But we're only spinning that motor in one axis, aren't we? If you were to take a gimbal setup with a ring within a ring within a ring, and they all have opposing mountings, so that they all, like the way that, you know, the things that keep cups level on ships, like a ship's galley cooker. Yeah. But one of those nested circles, if you have a cable connected to the very inner ring that travels all the way through all of the rings, and you twist the cable, all of those rings then spin and do this by virtue of you spinning the one cable at the end, because they're linked. If you then put magnets on each of those rings, could you not create a three-dimensional equivalent of a dynamo?
Yeah, do you remember the movie
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, do you remember the movie Contact?
Yes, sir.
And the three-axis ring motor gimbal.
Yeah.
You understand what
Yeah,
the
and
purpose of that was?
and you spin it with a cable from one end, and that will
Well, they weren't
produce so
spinning it with the
much
cable.
energy.
They're pumping power into each layer that's self-motorized through the commutators. So no cable, but commutators, which is far more effective.
What was that film with that O'Neill actor where he had that machine
Stargate?
and they opened it? No. It was the scary O'Neill bloke, not Stargate one. So they're in a deep space ship somewhere, and at the end of the ship, the drive of the ship opens the hell gate somehow, and it all goes very wrong.
Oh, I totally know which one you're talking about.
What's that called?
Oh, it'll come to me.
Yeah.
My girlfriend.
It's
was
horrible.
watching.
It's hideous.
She'd
This
let
film.
off.
It gets very
I
bloody
know.
at the
It's like
end.
it's
Sam Neill.
think
Sam
Power
Neill
is
is the
good.
actor. It's like
How does
Event
it-
Horizon.
Event Horizon.
Is it Event Horizon? Is it?
Oh no, I think it's
Yeah. With Sam Neill.
Uh,
Well, two people think it's Event Horizon.
Isn't the thing in that a set of
Maybe
wheels
it
within wheels
Can
within
somebody find a
wheels? That's
picture of
very
that? I haven't seen that.
Ezekiel,
okay, it is
isn't
Event
it?
Horizon. It is. Okay, my bad.
It is, yeah. That's the one.
That's Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. Okay, so there's two interesting things that I'll mention about what I just showed. One is that bagel coil. If people here aren't familiar with Bob Greenier's channel and haven't seen ODay and the donut system, that coil is claimed to do something really special. You hook up a signal generator to it, small audio amplifier, or something else like that. You provide a sine wave signal or some other wave signal. It was only tested with the sine in the Russian paper, and they tested it at 30 hertz because they had a 50 hertz line, so they wanted to differentiate for sure that the signal they were measuring with their oscilloscope-based magnetometer, why I built my magnetometer to replicate, they wanted to verify that it wasn't, line noise. And so they hooked up the generator to that thing. They were measuring the flux in the middle, and then they disconnected the generator, disconnected the wires as well, and continued to measure an oscillating magnetic flux of the roughly same amplitude going through that coil. Now, they'd done many, many tests, and they found that this field would persist in the center, self-oscillating magnetic flux for up to 2 days, which is pretty freaking fantastic. But they noticed that if you just poke your finger through the center, you'd completely destroy this oscillation, almost as if there was something physical, like a phantom field in the center, that could be disrupted by physical perturbation or something entering that region. And that makes it sound like it's tied to the local mass or the local matter. It demands that we reconsider the role of the vacuum in terms of magnetic flux.
There's a unifying force there, isn't there?
You know what the flux is. So you know what stores the flux?
No, what stores the flux is
it's the core. The core
no,
stores the flux.
they're coreless. These are coreless. They have copper cores, and you could even remove the coil from around this area, and it will persist in that spot. It doesn't even move there anymore.
You're saying a coreless oscillator would self-oscillate without a core?
I'm saying the coreless oscillator will produce a oscillating magnetic field in its center, and then you can take away the coil, the coreless coil, and you'll still have the oscillation in the center, according to the Russian report. And that's why I built that coil, to test this phenomenon as well.
That is interesting.
Oh yeah, very.
It's like a polarizing.
Jeremiah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, G.
We can hear
You're
you,
a little
Gerald.
quiet.
So when that oscillating field continues, if that's what you find from your experiment, try popping off a cap, because I found when I'm doing my experiments and I get this buildup of a field, the only way to get rid of it is to actually have a really hard snap go off in the background, and I use a capacitor to do that. So when you do the experiment, if you find that oscillating field's continued, and you try the finger test, and that sounds kind of funny, but that works out, do me a favor, redo the experiment and try with a capacitor.
Oh yeah, well, if I can get the self-persisting field, I'm already going to be rejoicing and jumping up and down, because that's an impossible feat of physics that should never happen and is completely unsupported by general relativity, special relativity, or quantum electrodynamics or quantum physics. So this effect would be something brand freaking new that we would demand a change in our current model of the aether or of the vacuum in order to justify. And I'm not saying that I expect it to work. It's a Russian report, it's obscure, and nobody's been able to replicate the effect so far, despite the fact that people have built similar bagel coils. They're not quite like mine, but they built similar bagel coils, and they haven't managed to reproduce this. So I'm not super confident, but hey, if it works, like, I'll be celebrating like crazy. We'll do a stream about it. I'll demonstrate the effect with my new oscilloscope magnetometer probe, and then we can all get crazy about theorizing how in the hell this is physically possible.
What is this about the south field you're talking about here?
This is that bagel coil that we're talking about.
Bernard, look at your Twitter inbox.
I can't hear you. What's that?
What about the south field? It's
Dude, I do not know why you're like 5 feet away from your mic, but please get closer.
Can you hear me?
Wait, just get closer to your. I don't know. Are you wearing a headset? Like you sound. I hear your room echo like you're in the hollow deck that looks like, man. Like it sounds like you're in a big room, dude.
Oh yeah. Do you wanna, Mr. Elon? Do you wanna share screen and share? So, do I just call you Mr. Elon? Do you have what's your actual name?
It's Ian.
It's
just Ian. Just Ian. Bernard, it's Ian.
Gotcha.
It's Ian.
I love
Mr.
the
Ian.
wordplay. It's Ian. Gotcha. Mystery
Penny
Ian.
drop
Gotcha.
moment.
But yeah, if you want to share your screen and go through some of the AI images you've been generating throughout, as and just.
I've just sent you a load. I've sent you some on Facebook.
I know you sent
on
them
Twitter.
my
Sorry, on Twitter.
But sadly, I have 3 different Twitter accounts, and what my main Twitter that you sent it to is still attached to my banned, deleted YouTube channel. So when I'm streaming, I can't really access it. It's like on my phone, sort of thing. Pain in the butt. And if you have it on your computer, if you want to just go through all of them that you've done,
Well, just throw them.
And we can finish
I'll interrupt it. So
I guess
I can go.
Yeah, you've got it set up where they're just behind you there, right there. You can put them up, right?
So you can see here, I'm running Night Vision XL. So this is the SDXL model, but it's a photorealistic model that I use for rendering some of the Truth Seekers show intros and stuff that we do. So
shout out Stephen Camion.
You'll get to see all my So at the moment I've done anti-gravity machine, complex, high detailed machine with twisted copper wiring. That's my prompt there.
I like that prompt. Okay, let's see this.
So I'm going to go through. It's still generating. It's about 30% through a run. So
by the way, let me mention
to infinite image browsing here.
Because I'm probably going to forget this, but while I was putting those 2 magnets together, after I had glued the 2 north sides together, they're 100 millimeters wide. Their diameter is 60 millimeters. They're each 15 thick, so it's 30 tall altogether. I noticed that while I was holding it in my hand before I wrapped it, it was acting like a gyroscope. Like I could feel a strange gyroscopic precession, almost like almost like inertia. But the strange thing about it was that instead of it trying to stay axially aligned with the parallel flat faces as if it was a rotating disc, it seemed like the alignment was completely orthogonal to that, and it wanted to always tilt down 90 degrees. And so it would want to sit upright, standing tall with the hole basically facing parallel to the ground. And it didn't feel like it was trying to pull itself down as if there was an extra force, but it felt like it would fall into that position very, very easily. It would take more force to rotate it until it got into that position when it was parallel with the table surface. It was much easier to turn when it was horizontal with the table surface. So that was something interesting where these two pinch magnetic fields acted almost like a magnetic gyroscope. And it's enough to point out where if anybody ever wants to squeeze two large magnets together, and you'll only feel this with really big magnets, that you might want to check that out. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I was imagining it, but it's significant if it's actually true.
Right, and this is where I suspect at some points, like AI is gonna accidentally discover a breakthrough.
Oh God, yeah, isn't it?
Putting stuff in
Isn't
like this, right, where it's just gonna show some idea that it like.
What does that look like? What does that look like? That looks like a quantum computer, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
It's like a fusion machine.
Both. Oh, we got what, CERN right there by the looks of it, almost more.
I was thinking to ask
Well,
AI
let's
to
do-
build a over Unity circuit, a simple one, as few as parts as possible.
That looked like Atlas, the last one, right?
I just love the way that
Yeah, but
it
there's many over
efficiently
Unity circuits
and
out there, depending on
organically
what you're hooked up
designs
to.
things that we wouldn't. Look at that. Wow.
Sorry, Gerald, do you want to repeat that? There's also a couple second time delay, obviously, between Ian and then us in North
Are these all
America.
solid state?
Is there?
Or-
Bernard, let's check the time delay. So if I do a count, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the gap between them, if you try and do it as quickly as possible and continue from mine, okay? Yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Exactly. There's no delay. There's no delay.
no
It's
delay
right
at
there.
all.
None.
Wow.
None.
Should that be possible with you in the UK and like me on the west side of North America?
Yes, because we have fiber optic cables traveling underneath the Atlantic Ocean that connect us. So we're communicating at the speed of light.
Fair. Too small.
I mean, there'll be like
fascinating.
It's probably like 150 millisecond delay or something. It's not much. We could probably, in fact, work together with MIDI instruments and remain in time. Almost.
Right? Wow.
Nuts, isn't it? Yeah.
That's just mind blowing.
That is very interesting. Other fascinating news is it should be just about a week before I get the parts in to build the invisible wall machine for the force field generator. That's gonna be fun.
CERN. CERN. Yeah, there we go. CERN again.
Right?
What is that? What is that?
I know. I think I needs me one of those. I suspect.
It didn't.
Look
It
at that
didn't.
one.
Oh, this is where I put copper twisted wire in, and it started doing stuff with copper twists.
Damn thing looks like a magnetron.
Right.
Or like the inside framework of the large Searle disk. I like the fact that it actually has a coil somewhere. That's nice.
Yes. And the heat pipes going in and out of it. What are they about? Look at that. God. How can that not work? What does the AI know?
Right? Like I want to put 1,000,000 volts through these things and see what
Yes,
happens.
yes,
I bet
yes,
you
yes,
it open
yes,
a
yes.
portal.
I like the twist too. I like that you can see the twisted conductors going out of the inside. Now it's not showing like the twisted windings, but it's showing twisted conductors that exit. So you got to wonder. It's not like there's a whole bunch of diagrams that it has to draw from about like anti-gravity coil systems, right? It doesn't really have much to pull from. So I wonder where this is actually the information is pouring out of here.
There we go. We're back round again to the start. So, but there you go. Very
And I
good.
know it's late for G,
definitely
too, so
pretty hard.
now we're flipping it back around. What have you been up to, man?
I
The
just
what?
saw your Gerald, your statement or your message in the background. Do you want to finish the show off with the live demo of your gyroscopic motion from two of your coils that they say are solid state without moving parts?
What? Wait, so he's got the same effect too? Really? Really?
Gerald, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Yeah,
There you
can
go.
you hear me? My audio seems to be off.
We can
We
hear you
just-
now.
just crushed you,
Hear you
man.
now.
I've been
Yeah,
using a
I've
cash
actually-
generator for
I've
5
had it
years.
for a while,
I get 10
but-
watts extra out of it.
Just a second, Mike. He's got bad audio. Go ahead, G.
Yeah, I've had it for a while now. I've just been fine-tuning certain things. I've been getting ready to, like I said, show everybody. But I want to get it into 3 or 4 of your different hands so that we can show it all at once and do like a all at the same time demonstration. That way you guys can know I'm not bullshitting. Basically, that's what it comes down to, right? So I haven't really announced it or told a lot of people about it because until the system's sitting in your hands and you guys get to do the same test, it's just talk, right? So that's why I haven't really brought it up. I think I've brought it up a few times to Jeremiah privately, but yeah. I have gyroscopic motion in my hopper and in my, what me and Jeremiah dubbed the warp coil.
How are you taking
It's
it? Are you picking
over
these things
3
up?
feet in diameter, so...
Holy mother of mercy. How are you picking that up? Like, are you physically moving these things while they're operating, or what?
Say that again?
How are you detecting the gyroscopic motion? Is it like a gyroscopic inertia, like it's rotating, or are you picking it up some other way?
Okay, so the way that I'm picking it up, and again, this has to be verified by you guys.
And there goes
magnet, and I can spin it. Sorry?
It's trying to chop your audio.
As soon as you start talking
missed
about
that.
the important facts, it starts cutting you out again.
So right at the beginning of your explanation, your answer to me is right when it cut you.
Okay, so I'll
gotta
try and do this quick.
Okay.
So I can spin it in rotation, and I can control both axes of a rotation. And speeds in both axes of rotation.
That's the magnet that you're talking about, right?
Did you catch that?
Yeah, you're talking about spinning a magnet, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
yeah, and that's spinning a magnet along an axis.
Yeah, just by spinning a magnet. But now,
Wow. Oh, you got Mike back.
okay, but I'm not just spinning it. I'm not just spinning it on its x-axis. I'm spinning it on its y-axis as well.
Right, and that means you're not.
Does that
the
make
magnet's
sense?
Not, yeah, the magnet's not rotating so that it's chasing north and south. It's actually rotating like a rotor of a silent pole motor, as if the material itself is being spun not based on where the poles are located, but 90 degrees to the poles, the rotation along an axial rotation.
Yes, but I can also control the flip of the poles.
Are you doing that with duty cycle?
Say that again?
How are you controlling the flip of the poles? How are you controlling the flip of the poles?
I do it through dumping the back
With the whole
EMF and my
sensor.
secondary coil on the geometrical form itself.
Yeah, that's going to be something better demonstrated.
Back EMF
on
is
video.
reverse polarity. That's already flipped the pole. Back EMF is reverse polarity. That's already flipped the pole.
Yeah, but the way that my coil is wound, I capture the back EMF, allowing my primary to have its energy flow through it super quick. I wouldn't say it's a superconductor, but it definitely displays anomalies that need to be demonstrated and tested by others. I'd love to get it into Jeremy's hands, Mike's. I'd love to get it out there so that you guys can all test it all at once.
Well, just get it over here so we can privately verify it, and then we'll go
I've
from
now
there.
You can dump the back EMF into
Okay,
a battery.
well, I'm on my
you can dump
third
it into
hopper.
a coil.
Yeah, I've done that. I've dumped it.
And if you dump it into a
dump
coil-
it into microwave transformers. I could dump it into batteries. I can light banks of LEDs. I'm right now working with my scooter motor that runs at 60 volts, and I've just installed a coil in the system itself to charge my batteries on my trailer while I'm running the scooter itself. So far the tests are pretty mind-blowing. But like I said, it's just talk until it's in your hands.
That's amazing.
Well, the confusion comes in when people don't understand. You know, you charge a coil one way, you remove the charge, the poles flip on that coil.
I hear you, Gerald. Gerald, my father used to say there's thems that talk and thems that do.
Mike, Faraday Research, you gotta mute your other speaker. You're causing us mad echo by having two cameras or two microphones, two speakers.
All right.
Is that?
You're getting a longer delay than we've got across the Atlantic.
Right?
Once
Or
you-
does someone have YouTube playing still? Gerald, do you have your YouTube on? Or were you watching before? I don't
No,
know.
it's
Or
off.
they're just messing with us. As soon as good information happens, this always happens in the stream.
Like to
Bernie, do you
explain how
stream
I
us
line
live?
coils is a little difficult.
Well, I guess it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
Mike, he just left. And
We're currently live on Rumble. We're currently live on my two YouTubes, on Alien Scientist Jeremy's YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook, and anybody else in here. If you want to share part of it to your channel, feel free to hit the top right button, and that's the beauty of StreamYard.
And smash that like button.
Yes, please smash the like button several times on all your accounts and all your alts. And when are we
Back EMF
wrapping
is
this
a
up
lot
soon,
like what
guys? 'Cause
Newman was using.
I gotta get to bed here, man. It's been a long week.
Absolutely. We're
Yeah,
got
likewise, it's early here.
10 minutes to 2 hours, so we'll say this 10-minute mark and closing.
Go ahead, pop the
thoughts
after
this
party
evening.
link in there. Pop the after party link in the chat. Anthony, I know, wanted to get in the last
I
little bit here,
emailed
so.
Anthony the link a little bit ago, but yeah, let's closing statements, and then there'll be a little after party, but we'll end it at before the 2 hour here. And thank you, everyone. This is epic stuff. And Gerald, do you have a little live demo for the gyroscopic from a solid state, or are you not set up at the moment?
I do not, because of the way that I want to demonstrate it. I don't want to demonstrate it with just me. It'll be too easy to call it fake. I want everyone to demonstrate it all at once, and that's coming very, very shortly.
Definitely not fake. I've demonstrated it. I've seen it. Just never close the
explain
loop.
in the after party.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
Right, listen, before we go, just quick. My wife got sent through from AliExpress a weird order, and they accidentally sent her a load of these LD2410C sensors. So I've got about 24 of them in a bag. I presume they were destined for someone else, but how do you go about sorting that out? You know what I mean? These things are pence each. So I currently have one of these connected to a Tictoc T display, which isn't picking up properly on the camera there, a little ESP32
Oh,
with a
that's
built-in
nice.
screen.
Are those just displays for Arduino? Those are
No,
LCD
that's the whole
displays?
thing. No. That's an ESP32 and a screen and about 15 digital input general purpose I/O pins around the side.
Oh, damn.
And a USB-C connector and 2 buttons on the front and a reset button on the side. And it's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
Who did that come from? Adafruit?
They're about $10 each. It's a LilyGo T display. And you run it from the Arduino IDE. So, and I got ChatGPT to write the code for it. So I have one here, and I have another one which I'm putting together as well, which I've probably lost with my cup of tea somewhere. But if anyone here has any experience with these, they're 24 gigahertz sensors. They're human presence sensors. It works in a cone. You get about 5 meters maximum radar, and when you run it, if you buy the LD2410Cs like this one, you can actually run it off like I've got these tiny whoop batteries, the little lipos, and you can literally plug that onto there. Boom, it's now operating. They're flashed with Bluetooth firmware anyway, so you can cut the Arduino out of the situation completely and just connect the battery to the little sensor like that, and then it comes up as a Bluetooth device. And there's an app already on the Android market which takes all the data from it and gives you all these wave bands and everything. And it looks amazing. So I thought I can build an aliens motion tracker out of that beeps and works and does a little radar screen with a dot where it places the thing, and it does static objects and it does moving targets. It gives you the distance to them and everything. I had it set up and put it on the floor before.
The product description is the LD10C is a high sensitivity,
amazing,
24 gigahertz human presence status sensing module developed by Highlink. Its working principle is FMCW, frequency modulated continuous waves, to detect human targets in the set space. Combined with radar signal processing and precise human body sensing algorithms, it realizes high sensitivity human presence status. So that's pretty damn cool. So it can detect
that's what these are. Okay. Yes, and humans, and I presume ghosts as well. I figured the fact is you can have.
That. I like where you're going, man.
It's a ghost detector.
Next
and now, so it's incredible. It's incredibly expensive to buy a tri-field meter, you see, which is what most people use in ghost detection, or they'll go for one of those. Oh my god, I've got one around here somewhere. One of the things.
I want to know where you're getting within 5 meters of aliens.
Should work for that too. Oh, that's great. That's a great idea. I love that.
Well, for instance, my friend, so Steve, I just thought if you made a simple latching system that basically charged a lithium battery off a solar cell and then had one of these LDs in the way, you could have a latch basically on the ESP32. So if anyone walks in front of it, it will latch it and count the amount of time something's walked in front of it. So Steve, for instance, has a cabin in the woods, doesn't he? And he has some dickhead local. He has some dickhead neighbor that keeps on pinching his tents, and if he leaves any tools out, or like this neighbor will come and take them down. He'll think that someone's trying to camp on the land, and he goes, "It's private land. You shouldn't be camping there." And Steve's going, "But it's my land." So that was the point, to either build human trigger sensors to do a count. That's beautiful. Is it a digital? Is it one with the LEDs, or is it one with the full? Does that have the analog? Don't just show us a tri-field meter and then turn your video off. That was cruel.
Hey, this is like the hunting cams.
Did we lose him?
Well, we had video for a second.
But you get what I mean. So you get what I mean.
Sorry, guys.
I reckon, and I've got a bag of these, so I can make ghost detectors that are literally. I mean, the ESP32s are maybe $8, and these are maybe $1 each when you buy them in bulk. So for less,
you start making
$10,
ghost detectors, I'll sell them through my channel on my website.
Yeah, I'll sell them through our.
I'm just designing. I'm trying to design a nice 3D. I'm trying to design a nice 3D printed case for them. So far, I've got this, which I put up on Thingiverse. I've got a nice little snap together case like that which I've already
we're
done.
planning on, by the way, and I'd love to have that device in there. I'll have to do the I'll have to find a programmer to set it up correctly. But we want to have a website basically where we sell special detection tools. We want to have temporal field displacement meters. We want to have scalar electric potential meters. We want to have we want to have BNC and audible magnetic flux displacement.
So like that, and there's a button there, and a button there, and a USB-C connector there, and there's enough room in there to put the LD 2410C and a lithium polymer battery, so you'll be able to charge it up and then it'll run. If you long press the reset button, it switches itself off, so you can charge the battery and have it turned on when you want. And the beauty being, not only does it work and put the data out to the screen here, but you can also, there's also an Arduino app, and they're Bluetooth enabled by virtue, so you can just connect to it and do it through your phone, walk off, leave them in a room to see if there's a ghost in the room.
Oh yeah, no, I like that idea, and I also like the possibility of what else it may be able to detect.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah.
Fields. So,
well, it does cats. I've checked it tonight, and it does cats. Mostly cats, really.
Yeah, like I said, we want to have a specialty website that sells electronic tools and detection mechanisms or detection devices that you can't buy right now, that are more complicated to build, or even things that are simple to build, but people just simply don't have the infrastructure, the tools to do them. And we would love ghost detectors. We would love.
I open source everything that I make. I end up open sourcing and doing a makey doey, and then making no money from it whatsoever.
Well, the money isn't from trying to lock down the idea. Like we'll offer the schematics and everything.
That's why,
you can do your own PCB files, but the whole thing is like, here's a kit where if you don't want to order all the stuff alone, if you don't want to go on a Mouser and select the parts list. Or the
This is why you shouldn't smoke cannabis, you see, because it turns you into a big soft hippie.
Nothing wrong with that. Soft hippie.
Some people need it.
Hippie is fine.
Too late.
I just took my harvest.
So high strong that they need that, you know.
I just took my harvest down. I just took my harvest down, and I got about 1.5 pounds of mimosa, which I've got in jars.
Oh, I know the mimosa smell. Like it just.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's like Chemdog with a sort of musky fruit edge on the back of it. It's beautiful. Very nice.
Oh man, yeah. Like how many people are going to buy a ghost detector or a time field meter? That's definitely something that I think a lot of people need. I know, like Faraday's stuff, if he put that around his coils, he'd probably pick up a temporal field.
Well, look, do you want me to try? I'm going to model up a case for this that looks like a ghost detector, and I can model an alien scientist specific one if you want.
Take it to Skinwalker Ranch.
If you want to market that.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we haven't got.
I'll run you off a prototype of it. I've got some engineering resin. I've only got resin printers now. And I've got some engineering resin, really nice high impact stuff, so you can throw.
Right, like what I want to do is I want to coordinate our company with Michael Perrone's company, so that he's going to be producing materials. I want those to be on our website. I want all of our specialty meters to be on the website. I want high voltage multipliers, things like the Electric Magic Wand kit and the Tiny Titan Tesla coil be up there.
Yes.
There are so many things that need to be there that we could sell that simply people don't want to have to build because they're freaking complicated or they're too much of a pain in the ass to get started on. And we don't have to charge a lot for them. Like these things, we're not talking about like trying to charge specialty prices, but just basically reasonable things where we cover our costs, we cover our infrastructure, and we make enough to continue to grow the business. So it's a very fair idea. And all these ideas, like there are so many people that have these little ideas and you get a commission from it, submit the ideas, we optimize the circuit, we sell it, you get a cut from that, or you just outright sell the idea, and then we go from there. We're not going to patent any of these things. They're going to be open source, so we're not worrying about any of that legal bullshit.
The thing is with one of these things, if someone does have their own 3D printer, then that's why they bought their 3D printer, to be able to shortcut these things. So if you put the model for the case and you put the plans up on the site, people can make it themselves if they want, but the best, but you know, because that's the best way of doing it, because as soon as you put a product out,
you got an NFT,
you've got maybe a month, you've got a month, maybe 2 months before you get Chinese copies of the product anyway.
Right, like Ian, like the other thing about it though is too is like imagine your circuit takes about 40 parts and a printed circuit board that you have to order. And generally they're like $15 for like, 10 or 15 of them. So you got to order a whole bunch of them. If you don't want to do all that, you don't want to outsource the 40 individual parts. You don't want to outsource the connectors and have to go and do the individual selection of parts. Then here's a way to get it all at once.
There's the parts.
And you pay like, a 30%.
There's a battery, there's the TTGO display, and there's the LD2410C. There you go. That's everything. And as well as that, because that's already got Bluetooth built into it, and you can connect that to your phone come what may. In fact, I think you can even configure it, tune the distances and stuff from the app on the phone. You're just purely using this for data. It's also got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So if you give that your SSID and password for your Wi-Fi, you can create a HTML front end for that and be able to connect to it from your laptop as well, and then make that really nice graphic. There's a three-dimensional aspect to it as well. It's not just a distance. It does a
grid. It does like
it's like a light field almost. It's beautiful. It's beautiful the way to do it. I wanted to have this kind of, that American football field gradiented lines in like a dark green with a neon green on top of it, and then have the objects placed as red dots. It's a radar. It's radar. By the way, my uncle worked on the deployable radar in World War II when the Germans bombed our airfields. Lord Admiral Dowding was instructed to give us a kind of second chance there. So he developed mobile truck-based radar, which could be deployed in the event that the airfield's radar was destroyed. And my uncle worked on that radar. So I'm quite keen to get into doing that.
That's awesome.
He would be proud.
Well, it's about time for the outro, Bernie. So everyone that's in the after party, stick around. Join
everybody
the after party
for watching. And yeah, the StreamYard link posted for the after party if you want to join and talk. Sure, some will be sticking around, and we will do this all again soon, because each one of these sessions, it's bringing out technology, ideas, discoveries.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Open sourcing it. It's what needs to be. Thank you all. Catch you on the next one.